My sister told everyone I stole her wedding, so I audited the family, found the missing house, subpoenaed a box of receipts, and accidentally saved Grandma's home. I'm June Ellis, the younger sister, according to my mother, with all the potential and none of the discipline. Which is funny, because my older sister, Tiffany, has precisely the opposite. All the discipline and none of the breaks. Imagine a Peloton instructor who has replaced empathy with lacquered nails and bullet journaling. That's my sister. She announces goals like a press release and expects the universe to sign the NDA. For context, I'm 31. I freelance as a copywriter. I pay rent on time. I own exactly 2 credit cards and 1 plant I'm scared to name in case I kill it. I am not chaotic. I am a woman with oscillating internet. But in my family, I'm the chaos goblin because I don't own a label maker. Tiffany, 34, is engaged to a man named Brad, whose hairline is like a receding shoreline. You can see where the water used to be. He sells motivational supplements, which is a phrase that should be illegal. He calls me keto, which should also be illegal. Our mother, Lorraine, is a perpetual motion device built out of scented candles. Our dad, Jim, mostly sighs in a useful direction. Grandma Ruth, my real ally, has bones made of rebar and opinions made of dynamite. She's 82 and the only person in our family who knows how to set a boundary and label a casserole. I used to think our family drama was typical, holiday roast plus a side of subtle judgment. Then Tiffany decided her wedding wasn't just a wedding. It was her rebrand. Same high. She said rebrand like it had capital letters and a trademark symbol. Her wedding would be a, quote, content ecosystem, meaning the rehearsal dinner had a hashtag strategy. The bridesmaids were brand ambassadors. Grandma's corsage had a QR code. I'm not joking. And I was fine with all of it, truly. If Tiffany wants to walk down the aisle to a remix of Pachelbel's Canon and Levitating, who am I to object? Then came the trigger. Tiffany called me on a Tuesday and said, "Hey babe, teeny update. We're moving the ceremony to Grandma's backyard." Pause. Our grandmother's backyard is a postage stamp with a birdbath and 1 heroic oak tree that survived the Reagan administration. Why? I asked. Vibe, she said. Also, budget. Also, content. The tree is so legacy. I could almost hear Brad in the background muttering, legacy equity. I said, "Have you asked Grandma?" Tiffany said, "Obviously," which, as a family dialect, means not technically. Grandma later told me the whole conversation was Tiffany saying, "We're doing it at your house," and Grandma saying, "No, you're not," and Tiffany saying, No, you're hearing me wrong. We're doing it at your house," and Grandma sighing like the last witness at a tax trial. That same week, I found a folder in Grandma's kitchen drawer labeled, in ballpoint pen, house, deed, don't touch. Obviously, I touched it. Inside were photocopies of a 1978 mortgage, a 1999 refinance, and a 2016 quitclaim deed transferring half the house to my mother. This folder was not my business, but then again, my mother would call me any time she saw a typo on Facebook, so privacy was already a dead religion in our house. Still, I shoved it back and made a plan to do nothing, which is my best skill. I told Tiffany we needed to actually ask Grandma, a wild idea. I proposed we have brunch. Me, Tiff, Brad, and Grandma, and talk like adults. Tiffany rolled her eyes so hard I could hear the corniest click. But she agreed, because a brunch is a meeting with better lighting. At the diner, Tiffany arrived with a mood board on her iPad, and Brad arrived with a drone in a backpack for aerial flora. Grandma arrived with a tiny spiral notebook that said, "Dogs I've met." Even though she doesn't write in it, she uses it to swat away opinions. I tried grown-up language. Tiff, we're here to listen and find a solution that respects Grandma's home. Tiffany smiled the smile that says she's about to sell me leggings. Boundaries are important, she said, and I am so proud of you for using your voice. Grandma said, "No wedding here." Brad interjected, "It's not a wedding at your house, Ruth. It's a wedding with your house." Grandma said, "I'm not marrying my house." Lorraine, in her eternal role as the fog machine, texted from some home goods aisle, "Let's be flexible, angels. The house is part of our story." Tiffany put her hand over Grandma's hand like she was doing compassion cosplay. "It's just that my brand is very heritage-driven. Our house, not your house," Grandma said, "needs to be part of my origin story." I said, again, "Ask, don't announce." Tiffany blinked. Blink. Blink. Then, "June, you're being negative. Again." I wasn't. I was being a noun. Someone who has 2 ears. We left the diner with a stalemate and a peppermint. That night, I texted Grandma, "Want me to run interference?" She replied with exactly one word, "Yes." It was the first time I felt like an actual adult in this family, and not just a lopsided intern. The next morning, Tiffany posted a venue reveal video on Instagram with the caption, "Surprise, we're bringing it home. #Elizabeth after #ElizyLove." The video featured drone footage of Grandma's backyard, not stock footage, Brad's literal drone. It swooped so low you could see the crack in the birdbath and the faded Ruth painted on the underside. I called Tiffany. "Did you get Grandma's permission to post her house?" "Don't be dramatic," she said. "It's inspirational content." "Delete it." "I'm not deleting my joy because you're allergic to weddings." "Allergic to weddings?" As if I break into hives at the phrase open bar. That night, someone, guess who, dropped off rental catalogs on Grandma's porch with sticky notes. "Stage here, bar here, fireworks, check with county." The sticky notes were shaped like little diamonds. I could taste glitter in my mouth. I told Grandma I'd handle it. I did the thing that is both my greatest virtue and my deepest flaw. I organized. I started a folder. Because if you want to survive a family drama, you build a paper castle and you live in it. Screenshots of Tiffany's posts and stories, including the drone video, caption, and comments, which included our cousin Hannah writing, "Squee!" like a kettle. A PDF of the county permit rules for events with over 50 people. A copy of Grandma's home insurance policy. I did ask permission for that one. A copy of the 2016 quitclaim deed, which showed that Grandma had transferred half the house to Lorraine for love and support. My mother. A business term. I also called Aunt Rosa, our family's unofficial notary/therapist, who used to work at the county recorder's office. She is 5 feet tall and 90% eyebrows. She said, "Misha, bring me the papers," which felt like a Vatican summons. Rosa looked over the deed and said, "This is fine, but if they start building a dance floor, I will personally chain myself to the bird bath." I asked, "Can they do it legally?" Rosa said, "Legally, no. Morally, also no. Familiarly, they will try." And because narratives are allergic to peace, things escalated. Of course they did. I called the county office to confirm the permit situation. The clerk said, "Backyard events under 50 are fine. Over 50 require permit and neighbor sign-off. Amplified music after 9 p.m.? No." I said, "What about drones?" He sighed like I'd asked about unicorns. "If it hits a person, it's a problem." Meanwhile, Tiffany hired a wedding content strategist named Celine, who wore a blazer that could cut glass. Celine called me, and said, "I understand you're a blocker." "Like in football?" I asked. "Like in project management," she said. "We need your buy-in on the house usage." "Our buy-in?" I said, because warmth is a limited resource. "It's Grandma's house." Celine said, "I love that language. House as stakeholder, can we set a KPI for consent?" I hung up and ate 3 Oreos. That was my KPI. 2 weeks later, Grandma had a headache the size of a county fair. Tiffany had booked a string quartet and a B-roll team. Mom was mood lighting pillows. Dad was practicing his speech in the garage. Brad was comparing ring sizes to cryptocurrency somehow. And me? I was policing the porch. If a package touched that doormat and contained anything shaped like a lantern, I intercepted. This is where I tell you the thing I hadn't told myself yet. I was angry. The kind of angry that turns you into a scientist. I measured my anger. I kept a log. Day 13. Tiffany posted a grandma tries on her corsage story with a laughing icon. Grandma in the video was saying, "Don't post this," and Tiffany captioned it, "She's shy." Day 15. Brad installed uplighting on the oak without asking, then called it pro bono landscaping. Day 16. Mom said, "We all have to sacrifice for family." I asked, "When do you sacrifice?" She said, "I give more than you realize," which is exactly what you say when you don't. I knew I had to make a move. On day 17, I found a second folder under Grandma's sweaters labeled Lorraine Loan 2016. Inside, a promissory note. Lorraine owed Grandma $42,000, the exact amount corresponding to the cash-out portion of the 2016 refinance. It was due in reasonable monthly installments with 0% interest. There were 6 signed receipts of $300 each from 2017. No payments since. I held the paper. My heart went weird and quiet, like the moment before you knock on a door you're not supposed to open. I texted Aunt Rosa, "I found something." She replied, "Then it has found you back." I felt like I'd stumbled into a different story altogether, one with ledgers and endings nobody applauded for. I decided to call a lawyer. The lawyer's name is Noah Price, and if you're imagining a human spaniel with good eyebrows, you're correct. He's also my friend. We met at a trivia night where he knew the 7th capital of Canada. The answer is, there isn't one, which is apparently the trick question. Anyway, he does probate and property and, quote, family-adjacent nonsense. I showed him the papers. He whistled. "Your mom owes your grandma $42,000? I said apparently she owed her sense of decency too. He flipped through. Quitclaim deed, promissory note, lapse in payments. If your grandma needs leverage to say no to the wedding, this is a sledgehammer. I flinched. That feels mean. He shrugged. Sometimes the only way to turn down the noise is to turn up the truth. We drafted a letter. Not a lawsuit, not a threat, just a simple, "Hi Lorraine, the outstanding balance is X. Please propose a repayment plan by date, signed Ruth, CC, Counsel." The date was 2 weeks out. We sent it via certified mail because we're not animals. I didn't tell Tiffany. I wasn't out to blow up her life. I was out to shrink it to a human size where consent matters and grandmas don't host branded weddings against their will. My mother called me at 7:02 a.m., which should be illegal. "June," she said, "I'm trying not to be dramatic, but I just got a terrible letter." "It's not terrible," I said. "It's math." "You're punishing me," she said, voice trembling. "You always wanted Tiffany's wedding to fail." "I want Grandma's boundaries to succeed." Silence. Then, "Of course you'd do this now, when your sister is about to have her day." Her day. As if the son signed an NDA with Tiffany. "Mom," I said, softening, "this is between you and Grandma. It isn't new, it's just not invisible anymore." She hung up. Tiffany called 2 minutes later. "Are you trying to ruin my wedding?" "No," I said. "I'm trying to protect a house and a person who lives in it." Tiffany called me selfish, then a saboteur, then, my favorite, off-brand. She said the wedding would now be a hybrid experience. I said, "What does that mean?" She said, "You'll see." I did not like how that sounded. I took Grandma to coffee and explained the letter in simple terms. She nodded. "I gave your mother that money because she was drowning," she said. "But I did not give her permission to forget." I asked how she felt about the wedding now. She said, like a fly being asked to host the spider. We organized. We made a house rules list that started with no events over 50, no stages, no drones, no content without consent. Grandma underlined consent 3 times, then drew a little bird next to it for reinforcement. I emailed the list to Tiffany and Brad. I CC'd Mom and Dad. I CC'd Aunt Rosa because her eyebrows enforce accountability. I CC'd Noah because he likes to watch a bonfire without adding gasoline. I also called Mrs. Patel, Grandma's next-door neighbor, and our unofficial herald. She knows everything before it's a thing. I asked if she'd sign a no-big-event letter if needed. She said, I'll notarize it in henna if you want. For 2 days, it was quiet. Then Celine, the strategist, emailed me a house collaboration deck. It had slides like value of authenticity and grandma as legacy asset. I nearly bit my laptop. I wrote back, we declined to collaborate with grandma as an asset. Celine wrote, understood, adjusting strategy. Tiffany announced the wedding venue had expanded. The ceremony would be at the Botanical Gardens across town. Actually legal, but the first look, the heritage vows, and the grandmother blessing would be pre-filmed in Grandma's backyard to be played at the reception. Pre-filmed is the kind of word that sounds harmless until you remember that film crews are loud and people can be forced to smile. She scheduled it for the following Saturday. No permission asked. I showed up early with Grandma and the house rules taped to the door like the 10 Commandments if Moses had a stapler. When the crew arrived, 2 cameras, a gaffer, and a sound guy named Colt, of course, I said, turn around. Tiffany said, June, do not be small. Grandma stepped forward. No filming on my property. Tiffany's eyes went flat. We are doing the heritage blessing. Grandma pointed at the bird bath. Bless this, she said, with your absence. Brad tried to lawyer at us with a paragraph he'd found on Reddit. Technically, there's an implied license. Noah materialized from the hydrangeas like a legal ghost. There is not, he said. He'd parked around the corner with iced coffee. I had texted SOS. The crew retreated. Tiffany stood there shaking, lips parted like a stage curtain you just shut on. You're jealous, she said to me, of everything. Ah, the classic. Jealousy as universal solvent. Of what? I asked. Your rented linen napkins? Of being chosen, she said. I didn't answer, because sometimes silence is cleaner than an argument. They left. Grandma put the kettle on. We sat in a kitchen that suddenly felt like a church, where the liturgy was no. Mom arrived that afternoon with a face like a front porch after a storm. She said, do you realize what you've done? Grandma said, saved my Saturday. Mom ignored her. Tiffany's sponsorship with the florist was tied to the heritage segment. I said, you attached money to someone else's house. Mom said, it's our house. Grandma said, half of it is mine, the other half is yours, but the yard is mine on account of I'm willing to wrestle and you aren't. Mom's face did a thing I can't describe without a windsock. I feel attacked. I wanted to hug her. I also wanted to staple a boundary to her shirt. Instead, I said, there's a letter, Mom. We'll make a plan. It will be okay. She cried then. Real tears. It wasn't noble. It wasn't manipulative. It was the cry of a woman who built a life out of pretty things to cover a sinking floor. She said, I'm sorry, then I'm sorry, then I'm sorry, like a stuck key. I made tea. We're not a hugging family. We are a tea family. Mom left. I exhaled. I thought maybe we had turned the corner. On Wednesday, I got a text from Cousin Hannah. So excited for Saturday. I said, what Saturday? She said, the rehearsal barbecue at Ruth's. I called Tiffany. What is this? It's a tiny barbecue, she said. Only family. How many people? 30, she said, which in Tiffany, math means 60. It's a potluck. It's a violation. She exhaled. June, you need to stop making everything a crisis. I said, stop making everything a content opportunity. She added a cheerful, love you, like a sticker you put on a bomb. I showed Grandma the text. She said, we'll be in Ohio. We don't have Ohio, I said. She winked. We have Mrs. Patel. Which is how we executed the most beautiful petty plan I have ever been part of, the Great Patio Lockout. We gave Mrs. Patel a spare key and explicit authority. If people showed up on Saturday, she would stand on the porch, wave them away, and distribute a photocopy of the house rules, plus a coupon for the burger place down the street. She would also, if necessary, call the police, because I haven't used my senior citizen voice in 3 years and it's getting dusty. Saturday came. 27 people arrived with salads that should be illegal. Reasons? In 2025? Mrs. Patel, in a sun hat the size of a municipal code, greeted each guest. "No barbecue," she said, "by order of Ruth." She passed out the coupon and the rules. People mumbled. Some left. Some stayed to argue. The drone appeared, and Mrs. Patel, bless her, swatted it with a rolled-up HOA newsletter like a warrior queen. I was on standby 2 streets away with Grandma, drinking lemonade, phone buzzing like a beehive. My favorite text was from Uncle Pete, "Is this a coup?" Noah texted a photo of Mrs. Patel mid-swat. "I will frame it." Tiffany blew up my phone with a string of voice notes that sounded like a kettle. "Hi, long, nothing useful." Mom texted, "We'll talk Monday." Dad texted a thumbs up, which is Dad Morse code for "I exist." That night, our group chat, Ellis Clan, went feral. Tiffany accused me of publicly humiliating her and, quote, weaponizing Grandma. Cousin Hannah said, "I just wanted potato salad." Aunt Rosa posted a link to county regulations like a librarian with a taser. I did not reply. I decided to save my energy for the wedding. The wedding was 3 weeks away. The ceremony at the Botanical Gardens was permitted, expensive, and out of my jurisdiction, which is the exact amount of control I prefer. None. Mom made her first repayment on the loan, $300 from cash, plus a signed plan for monthly payments. Aunt Rosa notarized it at the dining room table while sampling deviled eggs. "We have governance," she said, pleased. For a minute, I thought maybe the story would land safely. Then the universe remembered it's a writer. Grandma asked me to fetch her old suitcase from the attic. It was burgundy, with a handle that bit your fingers. Inside were receipts. Hundreds. Some crumpled, some in envelopes. On top, a handwritten note. "Lorraine, house stuff, keep." Grandma said, "I kept these because your mother kept losing hers." We sorted, and like archaeologists brushing dirt off bones, we found a pattern. Purchases made on Grandma's Home Depot card, charged by Lorraine, allegedly for the house. Except the addresses on the delivery slips, Mom and Dad's new condo. Items included an electric fireplace, 5 pendant lights, and a literal popcorn machine. There were also 2 checks made out to Brad's LLC for consulting. Consulting on what? We found a post-it. Brand Synergy. Brad. I made a spreadsheet. We tallied $8,000 in house charges spent elsewhere. My chest felt like a filing cabinet had fallen on it. I did not want to be in this story. I wanted to be a person who posts pasta. Noah sat at the table, eyes scanning. "This is not fraud in the cinematic sense," he said, "but it is the legal sense." I wanted to cry, not because I wanted to punish anyone, but because the receipts made everything sharp. Tiffany's wedding wasn't just a boundary issue, it was a system. A family economy built on "we're all helping," while certain people quietly helped themselves. We didn't tell Tiffany. Not yet. We told Mom. She came over, saw the suitcase, and went white like she'd been erased. She said, "I'll fix it." I believed her. Maybe foolishly, but sometimes you choose to believe, because it's the last granola bar in the drawer. We made a plan, repayment schedule amended to include the $8,000, with a note that if any house purchases were for non-house use, they must be reimbursed within 60 days. Mom signed. Aunt Rosa took a photocopy like a sheriff. That night, Tiffany posted a TikTok, "Sisters who sabotage versus sisters who support." She didn't tag me, but she didn't need to. Noah said, "Let it go." I tried. I really did. The wedding day arrived. Birdsong, hairspray, panic. I wore a dress that made me look like a competent stranger. Grandma wore navy and her "I'm not impressed" pearls. At the gardens, everything was perfect, in a way that made my teeth itch, laminated timelines, a seating chart with tiny watercolor leaves, a content tint. Celine had created a quiet nook for emotions, which is hilarious because emotions do not know how to use a nook. I took my seat. The string quartet played the exact love songs you pick when your algorithm knows that you cry at Toyota commercials. Brad cried. Tiffany cried. Mom cried like a sprinkler. It was, despite everything, beautiful. Then the efficient, some friend with a voice like a podcast host, said, "Before we begin, the couple will honor their family legacy with a Words from Home video." Screens descended. The video began. Drone footage of Grandma's backyard. My stomach dropped into my shoes. The screen cut to Tiffany's voiceover. "Home is where our story began." Grandma stood up like a switchblade. "Turn that off," she said. The tech fumbled. The screen stayed on. The video showed me, standing in Grandma's kitchen, blurry because Brad had hidden a GoPro between the cookbooks, apparently, catching me saying, "No filming here." The angle made me look like a stern walnut. The voiceover said, "Some people tried to keep us small." The room made that collective sound people make when a dessert falls. I stood up. "Pause the video," I said, voice louder than I knew it could be. Celine materialized. "We can't pause," she hissed. "It's a playlist." Noah popped up near the A/V table like the Deus Ex laptop. "Unplug it," he told the tech. The tech looked at him with the despair of 1,000 freelancers. Then he yanked the HDMI. Silence. Birds. Someone coughed. Tiffany's face was a portrait hung in a museum of bad decisions. I walked to the front. "Hi," I said, to 200 people and 1,000 unblinking phone cameras. "I'm the sister. I'm about to do something mortifying, and I hope someday we'll all laugh about it, but that day is not today." I turned to Tiffany. "Did you plant a camera in Grandma's kitchen?" She hesitated. Then, "We needed coverage." Coverage. I repeated, like it was a foreign word. "Coverage of the woman whose house you tried to commandeer?" "It's my legacy too," she muttered. I addressed the guests, because if you're going to be a villain in someone's story, at least get your monologue. There are boundaries. They're not walls. They are fences with gates. We asked politely for the gate to be closed. It was not. Brad stepped forward like a man who'd read a pamphlet on leadership. "This is not the time, June." "Then you shouldn't have made a video that kidnapped the time," I said. Aunt Rosa cleared her throat with the authority of Congress. "Enough. Tiffany, apologize to your grandmother, right now." Tiffany's mouth opened like a drawbridge. "I'm sorry you feel?" "Nope," Rosa said. "Try again. Use nouns and verbs." Tiffany's shoulders dropped. "I'm sorry I used Grandma's house without permission," she said, voice trembling. "I'm sorry I made it public." "I am sorry." Grandma nodded. "I accept. Now get married and keep my kitchen off the internet." People clapped in a weird, slow way, like they were trying on ethics. The efficient, bless his podcast heart, took a breath. "Shall we continue?" We could have. We almost did. But then Brad leaned into his mic and said, "We still have the rest of the heritage package." And Grandma said, "Absolutely not," and sat down. The mood popped like a soap bubble. The string quartet started playing involuntary Thriller Vivaldi. The efficient looked like he wanted to resign from society. I thought, we will recover. We're almost at the end. We can still make a clean landing. A man in a blue blazer, accompanied by a uniformed sheriff's deputy, walked down the aisle during the lull. He asked, "Is there a Brad Collins here?" Everyone turned like sunflowers to a siren. "I am," Brad said, puffing up. "Can this wait?" Blue Blazer held out a subpoena. "You've been served." It was not for Brad personally. It was for Brad's LLC, misappropriation of funds, deceptive sponsorship practices. The plaintiff? A small florist named Poppy and Pine. Apparently, Brad had promised them visibility at the wedding in exchange for deep discounts, but then replaced their flowers with a cheaper vendor at the last minute, while still expecting the sponsored by reel. The florist's lawyer had picked the most dramatic moment possible to serve, which is tacky, but also, we were already a live-action Reddit thread. Tiffany went pale. Mom put a hand over her mouth. Dad sat down heavily. Celine disappeared, as is the custom of consultants when the PowerPoint catches fire. Noah said quietly to me, "I didn't do that." I believed him. Chaos doesn't need help. It has a gym membership. Brad sputtered. "This is a misunderstanding." Blue Blazer also handed me a smaller envelope. "Ms. June Ellis?" My stomach tried to leave the building. I took it and looked at Noah. He nodded. "Open it." Inside was a letter from the pension fund attorney handling Grandpa's old union benefits, something Grandma had mentioned months ago, like a ghost story. The letter said, "Ruth Ellis's power of attorney is out of date. Please have her update and appoint an executor for her estate planning." They'd tried our house line. They'd found me through property records because I'd requested documents. Bureaucracy, my old friend. It wasn't a subpoena. It felt like one anyway. The universe was stacking paperwork into a castle and inviting me to live there. The deputy turned to Grandma. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Grandma squared her shoulders. "I am older than history," she said. "I will outlast this wedding." The ceremony resumed, somehow, like a brave little toaster. The vows were shortened. They kissed. People clapped with caution, like applause might be called as a witness. As we drifted to the reception area, Aunt Rosa slid beside me. "We must update the documents. Today, if possible." "I'm not a lawyer," I whispered. "You have a Noah," she said. "That is almost the same." At the reception, music thumped, cocktails flowed like an apology, and the florist's subpoena sat in the bridal suite like an unwanted bridesmaid. Brad tried to recover by breakdancing. The DJ announced a heritage slideshow intermission. The projector refused, possibly out of solidarity. The night stumbled forward. And then, at 8:17 p.m., a courier arrived with a cardboard box for me from Aunt Rosa's friend at the county archive. Inside was a certified copy of the original 1978 deed and a 1984 amendment that I hadn't seen, naming Ruth's intended personal representative as her granddaughter, June Ellis, in the event of her incapacity. It was written on onion skin paper with blessed ink. I stared at it like I'd been handed a sword. Noah read it. "This isn't active yet," he said, "but it's a strong preference in the record. Combined with a current POA, it means when the time comes, you're first in line to steward the house and the estate." My brain whispered, "Steward." My chest whispered, "Oh no." My spine whispered, "Of course." Ruth squeezed my hand. "I always knew you'd be the one who keeps the keys in the right place." I wanted to cry again, but my mascara had already been through a war. The reception limped to its sparkler exit, except sparklers were banned, so they used glow sticks that made it look like aliens had opinions. Tiffany hugged Grandma, a real hug this time. She hugged me too. It was stiff but genuine, like we were signing a treaty with our shoulders. I went home exhausted, paperwork in my bag, heart rattling like a teacup on a train. The next morning, Monday, 9:12 a.m., Brad posted a statement. "We're the target of an attempted cash grab. We believe in small businesses. #WeWillFight." The comments did not go well for him. The small florist posted screenshots of invoices and emails with Brad's visibility package and a PDF of a contract he'd signed with a Canva logo. The internet did what it does. It found his college improv group videos and judged him accordingly. Tuesday, 2:51 p.m., Mom made another loan payment and texted me a photo of her checkbook like a humble brag. She added, "I'm getting a part-time job at the fabric store. I'll make it right." I felt something unclench. Accountability is not pretty, but it's cozy. Wednesday, 11:33 a.m., Tiffany DM'd me a screenshot from Celine. "We need to pivot away from heritage content for now." Tiffany wrote, "LOL." Then she wrote, "Would you want to help me with my vows video?" I didn't trust that sentence yet, but it wasn't a weapon. It was a white flag on a selfie stick. Meanwhile, Noah and I took Grandma to a notary and updated her power of attorney and her advance directive. Grandma appointed me primary agent, Aunt Rosa secondary, with very specific instructions like no experimental nonsense and If anyone tries to sell my jadeite bowls, haunt them. We filed the papers with the county because I have learned, if it isn't filed, it's folklore. A week later, Poppy and Pine reached out to me, not because I'm important, but because someone had tipped them that I knew things. The owner, a woman named Marina, said, "I don't want to destroy anybody, I just want to not be used." I said, "I understand that religion." We talked. She'd supplied a discounted bridal bouquet in exchange for full featured exposure in the Heritage video and a social carousel. When Tiffany cut the Heritage segment, after being publicly strangled by it, Brad told Marina the deliverables were delayed, then ghosted. Marina sent the subpoena to the LLC because her cousin is a paralegal and God loves cousins. Here's the thing. I could have thrown Tiffany to the wolves. Part of me wanted to, but there's another religion I practice. Proportional response. I called Tiffany. "You owe a florist," I said. "This is your moment." She was quiet. "I don't have extra money," she said, small for once. "You have a registry with a $300 cheese board," I said. "Take it off." She laughed, wetly. "Okay." We met with Marina at the coffee shop with the chalkboard menu that always misspells espresso and decides to stick with it. Tiffany paid half the invoice that day, agreed to a repayment plan for the remainder, and promised to tag and highlight Poppy and Pine in a new post about ethical partnerships, which is a phrase that makes me itch, but whatever. Behavior greater than branding. Marina shook her hand. "Don't make me chase you," she said. Tiffany nodded. "I'm sorry," she said. "I got carried away." "By what?" I asked, genuinely curious. She considered. "By being seen. It's addictive." I thought of the GoPro in the cookbook shelf, of the drone over the bird bath, of Mom's condo pendant lights, of Grandma's quiet kitchen. "So is being respected," I said. She said, "I don't know how to get that." "Start with consent," I said. "Work up to receipts." She laughed for real. "Teach 'em masterclass." "Pay me," I said. We grinned like teenagers. Maybe that's what forgiveness is. Laughing with a person who has a map to your worst angles. Aunt Rosa helped me compile the family binder, tabs for house, loans, healthcare, contacts, rules, and my personal favorite, no content without consent. Grandma loved it so much, she took a pen and added a sticker that said, "June's Doom Book." I allowed it. Mom brought over a shoebox of unsent apology notes she'd written to Grandma over the years. Little scribbles like, "We'll pay you back when things even out," and "Thank you for saving us again." We put them in the binder, not to weaponize later, but to remember that remorse can exist, even when receipts do not. Dad came by with a toolbox, which is his language for, "I'm sorry I was passive." He fixed the back gate, replaced the weather strip, and rehung the bird bath sign that says, "Ruth's Birds Only," which is both dumb and correct. Noah stayed. He started coming over on Tuesdays to play cards with Grandma and me. He's very bad at cards. He loses on purpose and on accident, and in ways that feel like flirting. He still knows the answer to trick Canadian capital questions. He also knows when to shut up, which is marriage-adjacent behavior. 2 weeks after the wedding, Tiffany posted a carousel. What I learned planning a wedding. 1. Don't make your grandma your prop. 2. If you mess up, fix it with a receipt. 3. Sponsorships are not free. Someone pays. Pay them. The last slide was a photo of Grandma's hands holding her jadeite bowl with a post-it. Used with permission. The comments were surprisingly kind. People like redemption arcs as long as they're not sticky with virtue. A woman wrote, "Thank you for talking about consent," and I felt my spine grow a new rung. Mom kept up the payments. Sometimes she came over and said things like, "I was in a fog." Grandma would say, "Get out of it," and then hand her a cookie. This is our therapy, cookies and directness. Brad deleted his statement and posted a new one, written by a person with a soul. "I mishandled agreements. I'm making it right." He paid the florist the remaining balance after Tiffany's first installment. I did not ask where he got the money. I do not want to know which podcast ad read funded righteousness. Celine pivoted to corporate clients because corporations don't have grandmas. We had one last appointment, the estate planning attorney, to formalize what the onion skin paper had suggested. Grandma named me executor. She named Aunt Rosa as co-signer if I ever lose my mind, which is her way of saying she knows I'm human. The attorney asked Grandma a series of ritual questions. Do you understand what you're signing? I do, Grandma said. Are you under duress? Only the duress of wanting my birdbath to stop being famous. Everyone chuckled. When it was over, Grandma squeezed my hand. You were my insurance all along, she said. I made a joke about premiums. She ignored it to say something true. You don't bluff. You bring paper. That night, I took the binder home and placed it on my shelf next to my plant, who still doesn't have a name. I considered naming it Ruth, but that felt like tempting fate, as if the plant would start issuing decrees. I slept like a door with a deadbolt thrown. 3 months later, we hosted a real family barbecue at Grandma's, with her consent, for her birthday. 30 people, paper plates, potato salad without raisins, because we are civilized. The only content was Cousin Hannah's dog wearing a party hat, and even he looked for a release form. Tiffany brought a scrapbook labeled Actual Heritage. It contained photos printed on paper, imagine, of our family with names and dates written underneath like an act of humility. No drone shots. The bird bath looked smug, which it deserved. Brad manned the grill like a man auditioning for a reboot of Competence. He burned 2 burgers and apologized to each one. He and Tiffany are doing couples therapy, which is not cute, but is respectable. They send Grandma flowers every month purchased from Poppy and Pine. Marina now recognizes our family by sight and gives Grandma the loyalty bouquet, which is really just the we survived bouquet. Mom started working at the fabric store and made Grandma a quilt from leftover swatches. In the corner, she stitched, I paid you back, I love you. Grandma cried in the quiet way, by cleaning her glasses very thoroughly. Dad fixed a squeaky cabinet and said, we're all right, like he was saying grace. Aunt Rosa framed the house rules and hung them by the back door. She added a line in her neat teacher script, if you break a rule, you repair a thing. Then she raised an eyebrow at Brad's wobbly picnic table until he re-screwed it like a penitent. Noah and I won't give you a montage, I'll give you a sentence. We go slow. He brings scones and loses at cards and kisses me like he respects my calendar. If I marry this man someday, I will not monetize the oak tree. I will ask it nicely to witness.